What's up, Fantology fans? Welcome to another episode. This is a special episode, unique episode, in fact, because we have all 5 Fantology members online for the very first time, and we're also live streaming on Discord for patrons. So welcome, patrons, and hopefully you enjoy some of the mistakes that will get edited out of the actual production quality version of this episode. But tonight we are going to cover fantasy news in May. There wasn't a lot, but we'll do a little bit. We'll do a recap of Fantology over the month, answer a few mailbag questions, and we're going to spend the majority of the time kicking off our June competition for our top villains in fantasy books. So Ben, Josh, Ryan, Jake, what's up, guys?
Hey, Steven.
What's up?
Hey, guys.
Good to be here.
All right, so like I said, let's start with some May news. And there wasn't a lot, understandably. I mean, there wasn't a lot of news in the world other than COVID and bad things happening. But there was some good fantasy news, and I kind of broke it down into 3 different sections. The first one is our Brandon Sanderson section. If you've listened to any of our podcasts before, you probably will not be surprised to learn that we are big Brandon fans, and he has been live streaming himself with maybe a few more listeners than we have, but he's been signing copies of his leather bounds, and he has put out some info on a really cool Bridge Form movie poster that'll be part of the upcoming release of the Way of Kings leatherbound. And he released a video, or not a video game, but a board game, a Stormlight Archive board game. So big fans, you've got to have these things, right? You guys planning on getting these?
Already bought my copy.
I'm planning on playing them when you get them, Steven.
How are you going to do that, Josh?
I'll fly up to Utah.
I'm planning on Fantology making it big enough that they'll just give us all board games so that we can review them. That's my current plan.
Well, I already did an Insta-buy for this. This was like immediately as soon as I saw it, I just bought it without even thinking about it. Maybe a bad behavior that I have, but it happened. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to playing with you guys.
Yeah, my wife has been using that to justify all of her online purchases recently. She just said, "You just bought a $55 board game so I can get X, Y, and Z."
Oh, boy. Steven, you had the slip of your tongue there with the Stormlight video game, but have you played the Stormlight video game?
There's a Stormlight video game?
There is, in fact, a Stormlight video game.
Is it like one of those old mud video games where it's all text-based?
No, it is on the...
I was cutting edge when the Wheel of Time came out.
Yeah, there's a Wheel of Time mud game. I don't know what mud stands for anymore, but it's all text-based. Like, you walk into the 2 rivers. What will you do now? A, B, or C? And then you go from there.
Yeah.
No, this is, in fact, maybe the furthest from that. It's a VR game.
Oh, the Shattered Plains. Yeah.
Yeah, the Shattered... Have you played that, Jake?
No, is it really a video game, or is it just you're in VR walking around?
It's an experience, Jake.
Yeah, I feel like it's more like what's it, Flying Over California ride at Disneyland?
No.
California Adventures? Come
Soarin'
on.
over California.
Oh, man.
Okay, calm down, guys. It's an actual video game. You play it. It doesn't take too long. It's probably like maybe 45 minutes of gameplay, but you start off as Kaladin. You learn how to do bindings and lashings and stuff, and then you go and you have to defeat a Chasm Fiend. It's really fun.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What's it called?
I think
Oculus?
it's on the HTC one. I'm forgetting the Vine.
Oh, yeah.
Five. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Also, I would say as part of Sanderson news, do you know who's doing this? But they're going through and like doing deep dives into like Stormlight mythology.
Her
Yeah, it's
name is
Tor.
Alice, I think, right? Yeah, Tor. You talking about the article that I sent over the other day?
Yeah, well, there's 2 of them now.
Yeah.
There's like one about the heralds and one about something else.
Yeah, I sent the second one, and I didn't see the first one except for the link in the second one. But yeah, it's just the publishing company. Like they have people who write about it.
But that's a pretty cool resource, especially if you've read all 3 of them, but like are kind of getting lost in the deeper parts of the Stormlight Archive. It would be good to read before the 4th one comes out, I think.
Yeah, honestly, I consider myself a huge Stormlight nerd. I recently ranked it as my #1 favorite series, and reading those, I gleaned some new insights into the deep lore. So I'd recommend it for everyone.
They consolidated a lot of they scraped through all the details in the books and put it all in one nice, neat article to read.
Would this be a good thing for like in place of a reread of the first 3 for the 4th, or is
I don't know about a complete replacement for a reread, but like if you were like, oh, I can't remember the details on the heralds, it's more categorical as opposed to all encompassing.
Gotcha. Makes sense. So
Yeah.
it doesn't really go through plot beats. It just
No, it's more like they did like the history of the Roshar system, right? And then they did the history of the Heralds. So like
cool.
Heavy spoilers, but not full plot details.
Okay.
If you're looking for a reread replacement, then check out Fantology, because we're going to try to go through and we're going to do an Oathbringer review soon. We already have reviews for Way of Kings and Words of Radiance, and we're going to do Oathbringer. And then we'll probably do some like deeper dives gearing up for Rhythm of War coming out in November. But enough on Sanderson. A couple other brief things. There was a fun Joe Abercrombie interview with Daniel Green that was just kind of fun to see Joe a little bit talk about himself. He's not as crazy as his books make him seem. And they released the cover for Trouble with Peace, which is the 8th book in the First Law universe. So I'm excited for that one to come out. You guys, I know we have a few First Law fans on right now.
Yeah, I think my favorite part of that interview was when Joe talked about how his mother, when she would like read him books, would kind of stop and say, "Man, wasn't that a great line? Let's talk about why that was a great line." And it was just really cool to see like a mother being that involved, and that's kind of, you can really tell, and that shines through in his books. He has really good lines in his books all the time.
Yeah, I would never read the First Law with my mother.
Raise your hands if your mom's read to you guys, your mother's read to you as kids.
Oh yeah.
It was my dad, but yeah.
My family read a ton, but I didn't know that was a thing until we had cousins stay with us one time, and my aunt was reading, was it like The Chocolate Touch to her kids? And then I was like, where has this been my whole life? Have you guys read that? It's kind of like The Chocolate Fever, but...
Yeah, that Roald Dahl book, right?
I can't remember. I don't remember if Chocolate Fever is Roald Dahl or if this other one is. But anyways, yeah, I didn't really realize how many people's parents read to them.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Jake, you were on the younger end of a pretty big family. So, I mean, I was first in my family, so I'm sure my mom read me a ton of books.
Yeah, I'm dead middle, but I guess by that time they were just tired of it.
What, a family your size, yeah.
My older sister read us the Harry Potter series. I remember distinctly. So
Like the first 3 books or something.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so moving past the Joe Abercrombie stuff, there were a few kind of like various YA book pieces of news. So J.K. Rowling has a new book. It's not Harry Potter at all. It's called The Ichabod. I think it's just like it's a short story. I don't know how short it is. It's like a very YA book that she wrote a long time ago that she's releasing
like
in segments.
children's book, not even YA.
Yeah, right. Okay, children's. So maybe not something we're going to cover, but it is J.K. Rowling, so might as well mention it. And the biggest release of the month was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is the Hunger Games prequel book. Personally, I do not really have this on my list. I was not a huge Hunger Games person, but I don't know, maybe someone will read this in Fantology.
I haven't finished the original trilogy, so
I regretfully finished the original.
I like missed the whole craze of it, but then when I saw the first movie, I was like, oh, this is actually better than I thought it would be. But then I was like, I just watched it. I guess I'm not going to read it.
The problem was the first book was good, and the second book was exactly like the first book, and then the third book was garbage.
Oh, really? Was it?
There was a character that died that I was very annoyed about. So
Can we say it? Was it?
No, let's not.
No spoilers at this point? I mean, the movies have been out for like, 5 years?
If you're interested, look it up on Wikipedia. I read the third book on Wikipedia.
on Wikipedia.
All right, Wikipedia.
All right, so critical fail on that one for Fantology. Maybe another fail on the next one I'm going to mention, but Stephanie Meyer has a new...
Not a fail. I will defend Twilight, okay?
No, yeah, I've definitely read Twilight. The interesting thing here is, so she writes Twilight, which inspires the whole 50 Shades of Grey. And then didn't 50 Shades of Grey come out with this same premise for this book already before Stephanie Meyer did? Like the first book through the perspective of Grey, and now we're getting the first book through the perspective of Edward. It's like life imitating art, imitating life. It's this crazy circle.
So I'm getting that you're a big 50 Shades fan, Jake?
I haven't read them, so no. But I just think it's interesting how people made fun of, whoever the author of 50 Shades of Grey is. You know, it came out of fan fiction for Twilight, but now Twilight is like, Stephanie Meyer's like capitalizing on it. It's like, oh, that was a good idea. I'll do that for Twilight.
So I actually know a little bit about Midnight Sun, which is the new prequel thing. So she wrote this a while ago. It's through Edward's point of view, like you were saying. And it got leaked it got leaked, like half the book got leaked online or something.
Oh wow.
And that was so devastating to her that she never came out with it. And I guess now she's deciding to finish it, or maybe it was finished all the way. I don't know the whole story, but now it's finally being released.
Oh, so maybe that leak came out before the 50 Shades of Grey version of it did. So maybe it's not this copy back and forth.
So this is the Snyder's cut of Twilight. Is that what you're telling me, Steven?
I guess so. I did just watch Justice League, and hot take, not as bad as everyone says.
It wasn't that good though.
No, it wasn't that good, but it wasn't awful. It was bad.
I don't get why I don't hear more of that opinion about Batman versus Superman. I thought that was a decent movie.
Just gonna say, this is coming from the guy that liked Batman versus.
No, I liked that, but Justice League was like way worse than that in my opinion.
Batman versus Superman was so dumb.
I thought Justice League was a waste of time. I'm excited for the Snyder's cut because I assume it'll be more like Batman versus Superman.
They're really setting themselves up, though, man. If the Snyder's cut sucks, then that's the last try. You know,
No, it doesn't matter because it's going to get a ton of people to sign up for HBO Max.
Isn't DC just rebooting everything anyways? I mean, they have the Robert Pattinson Batman movie coming out.
I don't know, man. If they make everything as good as the Joker, then I'm up for reboots.
Yeah, Joker was great.
Let's move past general news into kind of Fantology news. So last month we did our first Twitter bracket challenge. This was the top 5 fantasy series. We had 16 submissions from Discord followers and Twitter friends, other podcasts, whatever. And ultimately the winner was Wheel Weave's podcast, their top 5. And I guess Fantology is endorsing this top 5 as our official favorite series based off this very scientifically done Twitter poll. So the winning top 5 was Wheel of Time, number 1, Harry Potter, number 2, Mistborn, number 3, Song of Ice and Fire, number 4, and Malazan Book of the Fallen, number 5. Pretty solid top 5, I would say. Like, I've read all of these and really like them.
You're only on the second book of Malazan.
Hey, I like it so far.
Adamander Raker with the call out on Steven.
Yeah, I'm trying to be a little bit of a Malazan poser, but I'm into it.
It's a strong list for sure. But what about notable snubs from that list? What do you guys think needed to be on that list?
Oh, Stormlight Archive, not there, I'm noticing for some reason.
Yeah, Stormlight not there. Kingkiller not there.
Yeah.
King Killer's a legitimate exclusion. It's not done yet, and who knows?
Neither is Stormlight.
Neither is Mistborn, I guess. I don't get how Stormlight wasn't on there, but Mistborn was. To me, Stormlight's like the evolution final stage.
Thank you, Jake. We talked about this quite a bit in our last month's fantasy news, and Josh had a complete wrong take of Mistborn. Yeah, the audacity to just say that Mistborn would be better than Stormlight. So I'm glad someone has some sense.
Mistborn has a conclusion. It has a conclusion. I know that there's going to be more like stuff in the world, but Mistborn has a conclusion. It has, in my opinion, and you guys can yell at me about this, but I think it has the best conclusion of anything written so far in modern fantasy for the original trilogy.
Hot take.
The best conclusion in modern fantasy? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the best finale.
It has a really good finale, that's true. But the series as a whole, like book 2, I was so bored throughout the whole book 2.
Okay, we can rehash this later.
Also,
book 2 is great.
I would like to make this comparison. The Mistborn trilogy is like when you first see Cell and Dragon Ball Z, you're like, wow, this is amazing. This is impressive. But Stormlight is like Cell in his final form, perfected. It's like, okay, his original form was cool and impressive, but this is like top of the line.
And this is like Jake in his dull form.
After he's absorbed Vegeta and taken all his hubris.
I think I know what you're talking about just from different GIFs I've seen of Dragon Ball Z, but that's about as far as I'm going.
This isn't even my final form.
Stormlight is the final form.
Okay, so like we said, we're going to keep on doing this because we got a lot of response on Twitter, and next month's episode, or next month's series of polls is going to be about fantasy villains. We'll get to that in just a minute, but we do want to spend a hot second on a few mailbag questions from patrons. So one of our patron benefits is the ability to listen into these live streams and submit some questions. So our first mailbag question is, where do our Discord nicknames come from? So don't do any spoilers, guys, but just kind of like walk through what's your Discord nickname and why did you choose that?
Okay, my Discord nickname is Wits End. It's funny because I was trying to think of a character I could kind of base it off of, and I was so annoyed at trying to figure it out that I was like, man, I'm at my wit's end. I was like, that's a perfect freaking name because it's Wit from Stormlight Archive. So I just stuck with it, and I'm happy with it.
Wait, when you made it your name, did you realize, like, when you typed it into Discord, did you realize that it, like, the connection there?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I realized that it had like a double entendre. Not double entendre, just double meaning.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, double entendre means something else, man.
It has a certain connotation.
Move on, Jake. How did you figure out your name?
I just like the Wheel of Time and the Ogier are cool. So Elder Hammond, the wisest of the Ogier that Loyal looks up to the most, probably, as you all look up to me the most.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was just kidding. No, I just like the Ogier.
You know what, Jake? You probably have read the most out of all of us. I'm going to go on record and say that that's true.
No way. He's read the Wheel of Time the most.
Yeah,
out of any
no,
of us.
probably not.
No, I mean just in general. You think Steven's read more than you, Jake?
Definitely more series.
Nah,
for
man,
sure.
I think it's between Ryan and I right now.
Yeah,
Huh.
Really?
Yeah, man, you're pumping them out lately.
I have the nasty habit of finding something new and reading the first one or watching the first season and then like preaching that everyone should read it, and then people finish it before me.
Yeah, the three-body problem being a prime
Three
example.
Body
of
Problem, Ozark, Dark.
I don't spend much time on TV shows. I think you guys all spend a lot more time on that than I do.
Is that the secret to reading more?
Playing video games, actually.
For TV, I made use of this for the first time watching The Expanse. I came across some code online that allows you to speed up any video that plays through HTML5, which is pretty much every video player. And so
Hard path.
I've been watching The Expanse at 1.5 speed, and it is revolutionary.
Nerd alert! Nerd alert!
If you speed up TV and movies, then all the dramatic pauses, all the tension, all the emotion is going to be gone. Like think about the directors who spend like, I'm going to spend this much time on this shot, or I'm going to like, you're going to say these lines with this cadence and speed, and you throw that all out the window.
This is my response. My response is I probably have one night a month that I can spend watching TV. Okay. I can get through an entire season of something at 2.0 speed in one night. Okay. So if I'm going to watch something, if I'm going to watch a show, it would probably take me 3 months to finish like an 8 episode series of something.
And it'd be like way higher quality.
No, it wouldn't, because I would forget everything. I'd be like, I wouldn't be invested in it.
Yeah, it's pointless if you're not going to watch it. Who cares about cadence if you never watch it, right?
It's Ben and Josh's big brain time. They just jam their keyboard, put things at super fast speed, and partake of content while doing other stuff.
Listen, if anybody's interested, I'll post that. It's like 4 lines of code, and you just type it in your console and you're good.
This is also coming from the guy that read or listened to Wheel of Time at like 2.5 times speed.
And came out with the opinion that Elaine of all characters was the best. So I mean, I think you know what the 2.5 speed does to you.
I will say I'm gonna get so much hate because I have a friend IRL that also occasionally joins in on the Discord, and he recently texted me giving me a hard time about listening to books on 2.0 speed because it's doing a disservice to the voice actors.
And I get that argument, except I don't really care for the voice actor. Like I don't listen to books for the voice actor. I listen to books because then I can consume the book while working or driving or other things.
It's almost like I just care about the story of the TV show.
It's almost like you just made our argument for us, Jake.
No, because books were written to be read. They weren't written to be narrated. So that's a whole different art that I don't care about. I'm not consuming that art. You're taking you're ruining the way it was intended to be consumed.
Okay, we can move on past this.
Yeah, I think we got to move on past this one. It is a good discussion though. We only got through 2 nicknames, right? So
yeah,
Ryan, what's your nickname?
My nickname is Animander Rake. I came up with it as I was nearing the end of reading the Malazan Book of the Fallen, and Animander Rake is kind of a BA, if you will, of the series. He's a very cool character, got a lot of depth, backstory to him. So read Malazan Book of the Fallen, listen for Animander Rake. When you first start reading about him, you'll be like, who in the world is this guy? But by the end of the series, he'll be one of your favorites, I'm sure of it, just like he was one of mine. So nobody had claimed it, and I decided that I would kind of mark my territory as the Malazan guy, because nobody else in our Fantology Five seems to be able to stand the series that much.
Hey, Steven and I are working our way through the second book.
For how long? How long have you guys been on the second book?
I have a newfound commitment to it. I'm reading a chapter a day.
A chapter a day. It sounds like you're like reading a textbook for a class that you really don't want to read.
We'll get an episode out next month for it, 100%.
Josh is going to bust out the 2.5 speed on Malazan right now.
Oh gosh, that's a bad choice.
Yeah, that is.
I can do maybe 2.0 if I'm like committed, like if that's all I'm doing is listening to it and like driving, I can do 2.0 on it.
You could do 2.0 if you're on meth, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I can't even do 1.5 for Malazan. I have to read it.
Yeah, I tried to listen to Malazan, and that's why I haven't read it yet, because like I couldn't listen to it, and I just haven't had time to actually get the book and read it.
All right, Josh, tell us your nickname.
Well, mine's just kind of lame. It's Shard Observer. Shard comes from Cosmere lore, and shards are like magical essences of basically God that got broken off. It's just deep Cosmere lore. Not really any spoilers. And then Observer, I don't know. I just came up with it. It was kind of, I was like, oh, I can always change this later, and then never did. So
Maybe you should change it.
I like it.
I like it too.
I don't hate it. Like I just haven't sat down and come up
I
with
feel
something
like,
better.
Josh, I feel like Wit is the Shard Observer, though. So it's two halves of a whole.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you and Josh both picked the same character.
guys are
Can't
two halves
pick
of one
anything for your
whole
own.
person. No, I always imagine like it referenced like a shard holder, just like who hasn't claimed a planet yet and is just observing all the rest of
Oh.
them.
Okay, yeah, that's what it
That's
references.
how I viewed it.
Minor Cosmere spoilers abound.
The shard of observation.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the Shard of Observation.
So my nickname is Sir Savian. This is a deep cut from my favorite book, Name of the Wind, and my favorite scene from Name of the Wind is when a song is played that references Sir Savian. The song is called The Lay of Sir Savian, and it's my favorite fantasy scene, I think, from any book out there. I'm going on record in saying that. Beautiful. But I don't want to say too much because of spoilers. But I think we're going to do a Name of the Wind review.
It's a really good scene.
Have you found your Halloween yet?
Nah, man, I just need to wait for her to harmonize with me.
I think you need to go to an inn and start singing, man. That's how you're gonna find her.
Inns are all closed. COVID.
Oh, they're opening back.
Maybe
up.
wear a face mask. We could probably find a decent bar in Salt Lake.
I can't sing with a face mask.
That'd be like
Oh.
kind of like some Phantom of the Opera style thing. You know, you guys are all in face masks, kind of like the masquerade. Everyone's there in the tavern with the face mask, and you're singing, and you're like, all I was able to see were her eyes. And then when life returns to normal, there's like this subplot of you trying to find her, but all you know is what her eyes look like. Man, I'm just writing a fantasy version of your life right now.
Yeah, I really want to hear that story, Jake.
Mhm.
A COVID version of Phantom of the Opera.
Urban fantasy, Phantom of the Opera.
Let's move on past this question. For sake of time, I'm just going to skip to a question about current readings on Discord. So I'm just going to rattle off a few, and we do these read-along channels. So if you're reading something that you'd like the community to get involved in, the Fantology community, then let us know, get on Discord, and we will start up a channel for you where you can post questions, and as you go, you can read along. Kind of makes the experience more enjoyable. So right now we're doing one for Oathbringer, for Game of Thrones, not the TV show, literally the first book in A Song of Ice and Fire. We're doing it for Dead House Gates, which like you might have gathered, Josh and I are currently reading. Ryan just finished Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. I'm about to start Red Country. So there's one that's like kind of in between. And Ryan's doing one for Name of the Wind. And Ben's doing one for Dresden. He's on book 8, Proven Guilty. So that's what's going on right now in Fantology. If you're interested in talking with us or doing something like that, hop on our Discord and we'd love to have you on in our little growing community.
Yeah, and shout out to NC Towns on the Oathbringer. He's really like posing really great questions and theories, and it's a really enjoyable read along, in my opinion. It's fun to watch somebody experience Oathbringer for the first time.
So I think we're good for news. Let's jump into the meat of what we want to talk about. And we probably have about 30 minutes max to cover through. I think we should be fine there. So we're kicking off our new top villains. This is going to be the bracket challenge that we're going to start on Twitter for next month. So some guidelines here. We really don't want to have spoilers. We don't want anyone to look at this bracket and think, oh my gosh, character X is a villain. Right now when I'm reading, they're the hero or something like that. So anyone who has like a dramatic plot twist or something like that, you cannot put on your top list. That's not fair. to first-time readers. So we're sticking with people who are introduced as villains or who are like really early on, like you know that something's up. And let me also say that villain is kind of like a nebulous term, right? It doesn't just mean the most evil person in the world. It just means, like, the way I'm interpreting it at least, is anyone who causes issues for our heroes or our protagonists. So this can be someone who helps out at times and is troublesome at other times, kind of like a gray character. You can call them a villain. That's I have a couple like that on my list. So that said, does that feel okay with you guys? Anything else that I missed there? We really don't want to have spoilers, is the main thing.
Yeah, and I feel like we're going to talk about these characters, kind of battle them out a little bit. And so, like, when we're talking about them, what I feel like the spoiler level will be, like, for example, Darth Vader, I'm not going to spoil it and say, Luke, I'm your father. Like, we're going to avoid that type of spoiler. But we might say Darth Vader is a cool villain because he has a cool backstory that is revealed as the series progresses, and he kind of he might redeem himself a little bit. So we're gonna like stay away from like big shocking spoilers, but kind of talk around that. So if you hear a series that you want absolutely zero spoilers for, you might want to turn it off if you hear it mentioned.
If it's like a twist reveal at the end of the first book of a series, is that okay?
We don't want to spoil the first book of a series for somebody.
I would say if the twist is super strong to the point where you're like, this guy's the hero, this guy's good, and then all of a sudden bad, that's a spoiler.
So I just wonder, like, how are we going to talk about any of the villains without spoiling something of the first book, you know?
Well, I think we're just going to kind of do what Ben said. So if you're someone who really doesn't want to know anything, we're going to talk about names of villains and like why we think they are good without saying any specific, they did this, or their father was this person, or they betrayed me in this way, right?
Okay. All right.
Okay, so let's do this. So we're going to do top 5, I think, unless if you have 3, that's fine. We can just do 3. For the actual bracket, we settled on 3 to make it a little easier for people to submit. But for this conversation, we'll do 5. So just go through your top 5, give us like maybe a brief rationale, keep it real quick, and then we can kind of talk through without doing any spoilers, obviously, as we've said multiple times. So who wants to kick us off?
I do.
Okay, Ryan, let's hear it.
All right, so I'll go through mine a little bit quickly so we have time to discuss them and get to your guys. My number 5 is Calor from Malazan Book of the Fallen. One thing that I really like about Malazan Book of the Fallen is that a lot of the villains are, if you read long enough, you'll see them from a different perspective. They're presented in a light that might be a bit more sympathetic, and Calor is a character that you, or at least I, hated initially and just really didn't like him. But towards the end of the series, you actually start seeing him you get his point of view on things, and he's actually, like I said, a bit more sympathetic than you might have guessed from the outset. My number 4 character is Padan Fane, who begins the Wheel of Time as a tinkerer, I believe, as like a traveling merchant who's also a dark friend, but he kind of evolves into something much greater than that as the series continues, and it's very interesting. His path is probably one of the most interesting paths that I've seen a villain take. My number 3 is the Jackal from Red Rising, who is very deranged. He just does a lot of different things that really, a lot of messed up things during the series. I guess he's probably one of the most evil villains that I've seen. Number 2, which I'm guessing not a lot of you guys even thought about, was Regal Farseer.
He's on my honorable mentions. I thought of him.
Oh, okay.
He was on my top 5 actually. I might move him around with someone else now.
All right. I thought that was going to be like a sleeper pick or something.
He's a really good villain.
Like it's been a couple years since I read the books with him, but I just remember how much I hated him when I was reading. He was just on my nerves all the time, and I wanted him to have just the worst ending I could imagine, and I had no sympathy for him. He was such a frustrating villain, and I think that's a tribute, or says something good about Robin Hobb's writing, that she was able to write such a frustrating villain to read about somebody that I grew to dislike so much. And number one on my list is Cersei Lannister, who
Ooh,
is
okay.
a very, very interesting character in Game of Thrones. A lot of people don't like A Feast for Crows, but I really liked that book, and I loved the viewpoint that you see from her, and she's very interesting and dynamic. She's so evil to pretty much everybody else, and she is just so, I guess, she's kind of the opposite towards her family and her kids. It's a very unique dichotomy to see in a character, her loyalty towards her family versus everybody else. And I think that George R.R. Martin wrote her pretty much better than any villain that I've read. So, yeah, that's my top 5.
Very solid top 5. I think one thing worth mentioning as we do these villain top 5s is it was a little tough for me, and I think we kind of talked about this, tough for all of us, because modern fantasy doesn't really write like the super big bad villain quite as much. It's more of like these gray characters that you can empathize with a little bit when you get their points of view. But those are some really good ones, really, really hateable ones, right?
Yeah,
Thanks.
I'm actually jealous of that list. I wish I had thought of that. My list looks very vanilla compared to that. But I'm just gonna say I was disappointed at how hard it was to think of good villains. Like for the amount of fantasy that I've read, I feel like it's kind of something that's lacking. Anyway, number 5 is Gentleman Marcone from Dresden, and you don't know if he's a villain per se, but he's definitely not super righteous. So I'm gonna say he's a villain, and I'm only halfway through the series, so I'm just gonna trust that he grows into his villain status and is a solid pick for number 5. Number 4 is Sadius, and I will not say the spoiler that accompanies this one, but I think that he is a cool villain because he embodies everything about Alethi society from Stormlight Archive, and he's a villain for it. Whereas Dalinar embodies a bunch of Alethi culture, but is a hero for it. So interesting dichotomy there. Okay, Ishmael from Wheel of Time.
Ishamael.
Ishmael.
That's 2.0 right there.
Yeah,
You get the
Ishmael.
picture.
So here's the thing. He's what every Forsaken should have been, right? Like, so many of the Forsaken were just really lame, in my opinion. But he had very interesting motivations, and his power level was up there with the Dragon Reborn himself. So he was powerful. He had interesting motivations. So he's my number 3. Okay, I'm getting ready for eye rolls on this one. But I actually think that Voldemort is a really cool villain. And here's the thing. We really learned a lot about him by the end of the series. And we really learned a lot about his childhood, and he is humanized a lot more in that regard. And he also shows a political acumen that is unrivaled almost in terms of being able to like take over the Ministry of Magic and get like a sleeper cell base that's loyal for like 15 years after his supposed death to rally behind him once again and make a valid play for like the wizarding community. You know, there's a lot to Voldemort that I think that goes underappreciated in terms of villains.
I would argue that wasn't due to his political acumen, but more to the fear that people had and kind of the way he was able to divide pureblood wizards versus muggles and mudbloods.
Isn't that political?
That's fear mongering. And also, like when he was a student, he was like able to convince Slughorn to like give him the key to Horcruxes. Like he's a very personal guy who tried to do something with the Horcruxes that no wizard had attempted before, and it ended up almost putting him at number 1 spot.
All right.
So, top pick. Here we go. The Lord Ruler from Mistborn.
Whoa, okay.
I'm eye rolling at this one.
And I will say he's my number 1 because he is simultaneously like a big, bad, incomprehensible force while also increasingly becoming humanized throughout the book. And that starts happening pretty early on, so I don't consider it much of a spoiler. I also think that it's crazy that he's been able to unite, or not really unite, but he's been able to keep this hard world kind of going for thousands and thousands of years while maintaining his place at the head of it.
I like the Lord Ruler, how it's just interesting how he does really get humanized, and he's like, he is really like, you know, he's a big bad guy, but he gets humanized, but nobody likes him over it. Like I feel sorry for the guy to an extent. Like he's not a good guy per se, but I mean, I feel like he gets more
Yeah.
hate than he deserves.
Also, is there another villain that has, like, for thousands of years maintained his head status, just defeated and vanquished his foes for that long? Can you think of another villain that's done that? I don't think so. I think Lord Ruler should be everybody's top villain. There you go.
That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe like some Middle Earth lore might have such a person, but
I mean, I guess it all depends on what. I feel like we're evaluating our villains on different criteria, so it's hard to really.
But that is a good argument
really
for
say.
placing him as top under that category.
yeah.
I will say that he didn't have to deal with Cersei Lannister.
That's true.
So
You got freaking Vin that you gotta deal with, okay?
All right, Jake, let's hear yours. Let's break up Ben and Josh.
So people can like tell when they're talking.
Right.
Thanks, Jake.
Mine aren't really in any order.
Order you say them in, Jake. That's the order.
I was just trying to do them by some of my favorite series. So I went with for Wheel of Time. I thought about doing Ishamael for the reasons that Ben said, but I really like Demon Dread. I feel like the last few books really kind of humanize him more. Like he's a lot more complicated. You get to see a lot more of his personality and like his nuances compared to the other first.
Did you ever read like the short story that was
Battle of the
that
Wild?
featured him?
Yeah. Which I'm kind of basing it off of that as well. But I mean that story isn't canon, but like it's basically like backstory to what happened. But yeah, I think like Ishamael is cool because
Steven, did you just ask if Jake had read something related to Wheel of Time?
Well, this is more of like it's more of a deep cut thing, so I wasn't sure.
I was gonna go with Ishamael first because I like how he isn't like pretty much all the other Forsaken are driven by, you know, either lust for power, jealousy, or just okay, you're pure evil. Whereas Ishamael was more cold, calculating. But I feel like Demon Dread was also, I don't know, he had so much potential. I feel like to be good or bad. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people view him as like a savior in a way, even though like he wasn't good. But anyways, so I guess number 1, Demon Dread. Number 2 is from Stormlight. I did the one I really wanted to do. I guess I can't do, but I did the Voidbringers as a group. I thought they're a really cool villainous force / group. Again, most of these are like pretty gray or just kind of a mixed bag with how villainous they are, but they're definitely, you know, the negative force in the series. But yeah, read Stormlight to learn more about them. Number 3 is the Shrike from the Hyperion Cantos. And I feel like it was written in such a way for those who have read the Hyperion series. It's just such an ominous force when it's first like talked about. And it's like you hear other people talk about it throughout like the series before you actually see it, and it's been built up. And I feel like it really delivers on all the hype that was around it in the series. And it kind of has this unpredictable, unfeeling sense about it that just I think it strikes fear. Does a good job of striking fear in the readers and the characters. Number 4 is Gollum from the Lord of the Rings. He's just everybody's favorite corrupted hobbit. So good for so many reasons. He's comedic relief at times. He's like very soul wrenching to watch because of how like sorry you feel for him. And also he's like this chaotic evil force. He's great. And then the last one is from the Kingkiller Chronicles. And I'm going to go with the Cathay. Just the whole idea of what the Cathay is. I don't know. Can I describe what it is? I don't want to like spoil.
I feel like they're mentioned very early on as being a very powerful evil force.
You're thinking of the Chandrian.
Yeah. The Cathay is just in book 2. But anyways, it's an omniscient being, not omnipotent. And it's so bitter at everything that it uses its vast eternal knowledge just to ruin people's lives who it talks to.
Oh, this is the tree dude.
Yeah, which I'm hoping we get to see some major repercussions of its appearance from the second book and the third book.
What third book?
I don't know if you knew that, but the series isn't over at book 2.
Over the last 10 years, it's been so funny to see Steven just slowly die inside.
Yeah, it's so funny to see Steven dying inside.
It's just like every day the light, like a little bit more light leaves his eyes in terms of Name of the Wind.
Do you guys remember going to pick up Wise Man's Fear?
Yes.
I don't.
I wasn't with
We
you
went
guys.
to Walmart at midnight to pick up
Yeah, so I think it was
Wait, I think I was there.
Yeah, it was me, Ben, Steven, and Ryan. Jake, I don't think
I
you were
wasn't
there.
there.
And we went to Walmart, and we were so excited, and they're like, I think we have a shipment in back, right? And they like had to go in back and
I remember
unpack
being
it.
this was like before I read fantasy, so I was just like down to go Walmart at midnight. Apparently, just like hang out with everybody.
Freshman year.
I don't think we
of course
walked
you were.
away with the physical copy, right? Because they didn't have it or they
No, I
didn't
think
know
we
what
did.
it was.
I think we did, but I think I had downloaded it on a Nook.
Yeah, this was back when Kindles and Nooks were just getting cool, and you guys had them because you're real cutting edge, and so you had it downloaded, and you were like reading it, and we were jealous.
I had just gotten it for Christmas, like the Christmas right before. Anyway, that was fun.
All right, Josh, give us yours.
Okay, my top 5. I'll go number 5. I'm going to say the Falconer from Gentlemen Bastards.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and what he does just has such longer reaching implications than you think it's going to. And so I'll just leave it at that without spoiling things. Yeah, he was really good. I'm going to say Ruin from Mistborn, because as the series progresses and you find out the influences that Ruin is having, it gets more and more intense and you realize how strong of a villain he is. I also have Gollum from Lord of the Rings. And I think that both the movies and the books do a really good job, but I just feel like anytime he was on screen or on the page, you felt like uneasy about everything.
Yeah.
You know, you felt like he was just driving this wedge between Frodo and Sam, and you felt like, I don't know. I think that they did a great job, or that Tolkien did a great job with Gollum. Number 2, I'm going to say Nicodemus from Dresden Files.
Tread carefully on spoilers here.
Yeah, I won't do any spoilers, but for sure, my favorite villain in Dresden Files. I think that his backstory is really cool. I think his weakness is really cool, and yeah, just a great villain for me. Number 1, which I'm surprised that this name has not been said yet. My guess is that Steven is going to have this person on his list as well, but is Andros Guile from Lightbringer. And is he? Yeah, I see Steven
I'll also
nodding.
tread carefully as somebody that's only read the first book.
Yeah, I've read 0 of them, so
But you know he's a villain. You don't know exactly what role, but you know that he's an adversarial force.
But yeah, he's
Adversarial
definitely
force. Nice.
an antagonist.
Apparently, he gets out of prison that he's in for a lot of the first book.
Nope.
He's,
Nope.
he's not in prison.
What?
Whoa, spoilers,
Okay,
spoilers,
whatever.
spoilers. Come on, man.
No, Ben has him mixed up with a different character.
Yeah.
I'm so knowledgeable, you guys.
Were
don't
you
even
doing
know.
this at 3.0 speed? Like,
I'm trying to spoil things I can't even do it.
okay, so Andros Guile. For a second there, I was like, wait, am I not remembering something? No, I think just this is a antagonist that just drips like off the page. He just has such an amazing spider web crafting influence where he's just like influencing everything. He drives the main characters crazy, and you really, as the series progresses, again, you get inside his head a little bit more and you understand his motivations. And just, in my opinion, one of the best written, if not the best written villains in fantasy.
You know who he reminds me of?
Who?
Which maybe we connected this when we were reading, but he reminds me a lot of Tywin Lannister,
Yes.
who I was also considering.
In fact, I think I pictured the actor that played Tywin like every time I was reading Andros.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the Andros pick, Josh. He's actually my number 2, and I'll jump
Okay.
into my list. So I put him in number 2. Backtrack to number 5. I put the Jackal. I think Ryan, you might have had him already. So you already talked to him, but
Yeah.
he's great. He's a great villain from Red Rising. Number 4, I have a Song of Ice and Fire villain. I was in between Joffrey and Ramsay. I chose Joffrey just because he's such a little punchable, annoying kid that causes so much trouble. But Joffrey is a great villain, very easy to hate. Number 3, I went with Sadeas, Toril Sadeas, or Sadeas, whatever. He's a great villain from Stormlight. I think you guys already had him. I was between him and Amaram, but I ended up going Sadius maybe just because of recency. Like he's more of a villain in the first than Amra. Anyway, I like Sadius a little bit more. And number 2, like I said, Andros. Josh did an excellent job of summing up Andros' character. And number 1, I went with Elon Morin Tidronai. Jake, you know who that is?
Ishamael.
Yeah, okay. Just testing you. Ishamael, the destroyer of hope.
Ishmael.
Yeah, Ishmael for Ben.
Hey, I mean, come on. It's one letter off. It's one letter off.
Really based off of Ishmael, guys. Come on.
But do you call the dark one Satan? Because I mean, Shaitan, that's the same.
Jake, no cursing on the podcast.
You're not supposed to say that name, Jake.
Oh.
I'm not messing with it.
Ben thinks he's going to score some points by putting a Wheel of Time villain on his top 5 with Fantology, and then he just gets absolutely shot down.
Yeah, I appreciated it, Ben.
Thank you.
I understand when you're listening to it at 5 times speed, like the names aren't going to come out the way they're meant to be pronounced.
All right. So let's in danger of destroying Ben's ability to read fantasy books again, let's cut here. So thanks for listening. These are our rankings. I think we're going to pare these down to a top 3. So this is probably subject to change in the next few days. But yeah, so thanks for listening to Fantology. If you like our content, check us out at Fantology Books and on our website at www.fantologybooks.com. And look to participate in our upcoming poll, please. We want as many participants as possible, so give us your best fantasy villains. All right, thanks. It's fun having everyone on and fun doing a little live stream here for you guys.
Cool. Thanks, Steven.
See you guys.
Thanks.